Welcome to the African Development Podcast, your go-to source for premium conversations on various aspects of Africa's development, from climate change to migration, trade to industry, peace and security, as well as innovation. Mr. Joshua Alade, you're welcome to the African Development Podcast of the African News Page, which is a platform where we showcase insightful ideas about Africa's development around climate and mobility, trade and industry, health, governance, and what have you. My first question to you is to ask you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Adam. I'm excited to be here. My name is Joshua Alade. I'm the founder of the Nigeria Youth SDGs Network, a youth organization that advocates for meaningful youth engagement in policies and programs that would help young Nigerians to lead and thrive.
How important would you say is meaningful youth engagement in fostering equitable and inclusive sustainable development in Nigeria?
Thank you. Meaningful youth engagement or meaningful youth participation is pivotal to ensuring that Nigeria can achieve sustainable development with the insights of our young people. It's about ensuring that youth are seen as leaders, youth are seen as creative forces, youth are seen as partners in development. We cannot build a nation without the input of young people. So meaningful youth participation is around designing policies, designing programs that are for young people, but with young people taking the lead and young people being actively involved in the process. It's about ensuring a world whereby we cannot have youth engagement without young people being involved in the process. It's avoiding tokenism. It's making sure that the people who are most impacted by the problem are part and parcel of the solution process, basically. That's why meaningful youth engagement is important. And it's also important for belonging and active citizenship. When young people are consulted, when young people's ideas are respected by leaders, it means that they are partners in co-creating or achieving progress for Nigeria.
How important would you say is intergenerational collaboration between that generation and the younger generation in terms of fostering meaningful youth engagement and ultimately, the whole idea of fostering inclusive development in Nigeria?
Young people make 65% of Nigeria's 200 million population. And what this means is that we cannot talk about progress without the youth and I would say the elites or the older generation working together. It's like a family. You cannot build a family without the input of the father, the mother, and the children. So for us to ensure that we can achieve sustainable development, especially in this age, young people need to be seen as partners. And at Nigeria Youth SDGs, one of the things we do is we host the International Youth Day every year as a clarion call to call for youth leadership in sustainable development. What does youth leadership mean? It is recognizing the agency of young people, first as leaders, secondly as active participants in the journey towards sustainable and inclusive development. So when we are designing policies, when we are designing programs, we need them to have the viewpoint, the input of our young people. That way, the older generation, when they have ideas, they can have like a springboard, a bouncing board with young people to say, what do you think about this? And young people can give them really insightful answers, really insightful solutions to the issues that we face, whether it's with the economy or whether it's with education or with healthcare. Young people have a say. The way that the future and the present is right now, we need our young people in decision making, and it can only happen when there's that space to have free and vulnerable conversation about the issues that is facing our country. Sometimes you could stay as an older person to feel this is the problem, this could be the solution, but actually you might be defining the wrong problem. And when the problem you are defining is wrong, it means that the solution is also wrong. So with young people, they know what problems face them, whether it's with regards to education access, whether it's with regard to unemployment, with regards to even being able to participate meaningfully in public life. They know how they are impacted by this issue. So consulting them, bringing them on board will make getting the solution faster. We're in this age of artificial intelligence. So if we cannot talk about AI without young persons, so that's a good example. And that's why having these conversations in a safe space, in a way that we can empower each other, taking bold conversations together, embracing vulnerability and being humble is really very important to foster sustainable development.
Now, I would like to ask you, how crucial would you say is the role of young people? The network promotes its focus on advancing the skill development goals, participation of young people, inclusivity in the whole agenda, 2030 agenda. How crucial would you say is the role of young people in not just the SDGs, but important SDGs like the goal on climate action, which is used to be something we hear about, but it's now increasingly an existential threat that is staring us in the face.
For young people, one of the things that we do at the Nigerian Youth SDGs is build the leadership capacity of youth. Oftentimes, you realize that as a young person, you have a burden about issues happening in your community, whether it's the issue of sanitation, the issue of not having access to basic health care, or even you've seen people on the street because they do not have housing, and you have burdened by this, but you don't even know how to take action. You don't know what to do. So what we do is we approach this lens, encouraging the young people to take a systemic approach. But asking this question: why is there the issue of homelessness? Why do we have children who are not going to school? Why is it that people go to bed hungry? So there are some systems that have enabled this to happen. It's all right to feed someone for a day, but would you be there to feed the person tomorrow? So going down to the system is really important. What has made this issue prevalent? So that's taking a systemic thinking approach towards issues that are happening in the community. So we encourage our young people to take that pathway of thinking in systems. That way you can be able to find out what's the underlying problem and then deal with it at its roots. So that's one of the things that we do. And then with that education, we encourage them to actually take collective action with regards to policy. So who is that influential leader in your community who can speak to this cause? Who is the person in their state government who can be an ally to speak with you on this cause? So we take them through a capacity building for a year to understand this process. And another thing we also do is that we encourage them to look out for other young people like them who are passionate about the same problem. And then they can have conversations. There's power in knowledge, but the most power is when it is being applied. So when they share their power together, they are able to take collective action. And with this collective action, they work together to ensure that the problem that they face in their community is tackled. And when we look at climate change, for instance, Nigeria is not one of the heavy emitters of greenhouse gases, but we are severely impacted by climate change. And what this means is that young people oftentimes go out, and then you have this really harsh weather pattern that is even ensuring that's making it difficult for them to learn at school because the school environment is so hot. They are not able to learn, or they are having issues of being able to have the right food nutrient because, again, we are not having the way that the rainfall patterns are irregular right now, or you are having issues of flooding in communities, and that way they are not even able to have access to the space where they would usually go and play, where they would usually go hang out with their friends. So bringing young people into the conversation to say, this is how it affects us, and this is what we need to make a difference. In transportation, for instance, young people taking active participation in being able to redefine a new transport system. Young people embracing green jobs, solar panels, to be able to solve the issue of electricity in our country. So for climate action, one of the things we thought about as an organization was that we were looking at the ways that our young people, our rights holders, they keep telling us how climate change is really impacting them. And one of the things we talked about was how can they, beyond just going to schools to talk about climate change education, is it possible for them to be involved in the processes that would determine what Nigeria's priorities should be when it comes to climate action? And we looked at the NDCs, which are the nationally determined contributions. They speak to what Nigeria's priorities are, how Nigeria is going to be tackling the impact of climate change, how they are going to be mitigating and adapting towards it. But there's little or no input from young people. Young people are the most impacted by climate change, young people and women. So as an organization, we were able to speak to our rights holders, and we designed a plan of advocating for meaningful youth engagement in Nigeria's nationally determined contribution. The good part for us is that the review process for NDC 3.0 would end by February 2025. So we have about 4 months to actually advocate for youth inclusion in this process. And as an organization, this is really very important to us because it's we bringing up the agency of the young people that we really care about. With them participating in this high-level plan on how Nigeria would mitigate and adapt to the impact of climate change, it also gives them a sense of belonging. It makes them to understand that their voices count, even when it comes to national priorities. And this is what we want to keep doing as an organization. With that, it gives them more encouragement, more boldness to speak to other issues that is really affecting them.
As a response to increasing youth restiveness and agitation in the country, the Nigerian government says it's now going to organize a 30-day dialogue of confab with young people, which, in the words of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will provoke meaningful dialogue and empower our young people to participate actively in nation building. What do you make of this idea? Do you think it is what Nigeria's young people need in terms of fostering inclusion in governance and sustainable development?
The confab it's a good idea, but again, it raises up the issue around why is the older generation making recommendations with regards to what's happening to young people in Nigeria. Yes, a 30 days confab is okay, but that's not what young people need right now. Nigeria does not have an operational youth policy. That should be the priority. The youth policy speaks to how the government would ensure that the priorities of young people when it comes to youth development is harnessed. We don't have a direction on how our young people between the ages of 18 and 29, how government is supporting them. Paying attention to the national youth policy is crucial. The national youth policy actually has provisions for national dialogue involving young people. So for me, this is about putting the cart before the horse. The most important thing right now is having an operational national youth policy. And for me, I would have loved the president to speak more towards the national youth policy because it's all about strategy. It feels like when it comes to the issues of young people, it's more of a knee-jerk approach. We need something that is more strategic, more systemic, something that is longer lasting. National confabs, dialogues are okay. We are always having dialogues every time. But we need a strategic document. We need a pact that shows that this is a signed agreement that showcases the needs of young Nigerians. This is the solution to these needs. And this is the commitment of the federal government of Nigeria to ensuring that the needs of youth is met. And then we can start talking about a confab. And well, the confab will be happening very soon. And this is what I'm going to suggest for the confab. We need to start asking, how do we ensure that the voices of young people in rural communities is a major part of this confab? I'm really very keen on inclusion because we have dialogues every time, and then we're asking ourselves, what will be the end result of this dialogue? Are we having another jamboree? What's the guideline? Right now, we know the needs of our youth. young people are grappling with unemployment. Really, there's high unemployment in Nigeria. Right now, we're having a housing crisis. Many young people cannot afford a place to live on their own. That's a problem that we all know. We're having a really high inflation. Statistics show that Nigerians spend 65% of their disposable income on food. This is wrong. Every month, in the UK, in the US and other parts of the world, they spend about 5 to 10% of their disposable income on food. These are urgent issues that we need to tackle. Young Nigerians cannot even plan for the future. Everyone is living for the now. Many people do not have hope. Many young people cannot even dream. How would you dream when right now you don't even know where your next meal is going to come from? Those are the urgent issues we need to start tackling. Dialogues are good when somebody has eaten. Dialogues are great when I know that I have roof over my head. Dialogues are good when I know that I am safe in my country. Let's focus on the main issues. The issues that has made young people go out to protest has not been solved. Dialogues, for me, it's another excuse. It's like putting bandage over something that has broken. No, we need to fix it. No more band-aids. Let's focus on the problem. And that's why meaningful youth conversation, meaningful youth engagement is pivotal. I want to encourage the Federal Ministry of Youth and everybody that is close to the president. We don't need another talk shop. We need action. We need our youth policy working. We need the Nigerian Youth Investment Plan. We need that funding getting into the right pockets of young people to catalyze our economy. No more talks. Please, let's act.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the African Development Podcast. We hope you found it informative and enlightening. Keep a tab on our social media pages for more exciting episodes. Thank you.